handy hints and tips for getting caught in medieval sword fighting.
So the question is, how do we know that any of these techniques were used? After all, there's no tradition of swordsmanship in Europe to come down to it unbroken from the Middle Ages. The answer to that question is that what you did have, certainly by the end of the Middle Ages, in fact as far back as about 1300, the fight masters began writing down their techniques and illustrating in books. Now, they weren't how-to books, because the whole point was you were supposed to go and study with the master, and then you could use the book as a memory aid. So what you have is some very nicely illustrated books with passages of text accompanying them, but they don't necessarily make any sense. They are, however, beautifully drawn. If we look at these couple of characters here, for instance, we can see that there's a chap in red and a chap in blue. Now, the chap in red has managed to seize the sword of the man in blue. At the same time, he seems to have swung him round the opposite way, and also give him a kick in the lower spine. Now, I think the way that you interpret these manuals is that you think of them like modern comic strips or graphic novels. There's a lot of different things going on in the one illustration. You might think that the text will be a clue. In fact, all the text on this one says is, after seizure of blade, slip through. What does that? Got no idea. It's all guesswork. But what I can show you is my particular belief as to what's going on in that illustration. So, what I will ask Carl to do is, would you please like to give me a cut to the neck card? Now, supposing that this time I stepped in, smothered his attack, and grabbed the blade. There's one part of the illustration. Supposing I slip through now, we take slip through to mean that I actually pull him off balance as I slip past him. That would be the text taking care of. Supposing now, as his balance is coming forwards, I immediately, Aikido style, jerk him backwards to upset his balance even more. That would lay the swords across the back of the neck, and from here with his back turned, I could give him that kick in the spine, disable him even more, and by wrenching on both swords at the same time, I could slit both sides of his neck. That would give us all the actions that appear to have happened in that illustration, and even conform to what the text is. So I think it's an interesting exploration of what that particular set of techniques might have added up to. So let's do a bit more guesswork now. Let's work through the fight that I just showed you, a move at a time. Now you'll notice at the beginning, there's only two of us, and each of us take a guard, which is a position from which we can initiate an attack or a defense, at least in the modern sense. Now, on a medieval battlefield, there'd be none of that. You'd go charging in, people would come to you from all sides, and you'd take what defences and make what attacks you could. But there were very specific instances in which you could have two people within a combat ring like this, taking up a guard in preparation for a fight. The first one is what's called the trial by combat, and this was a common money-saving way in the Middle Ages of solving financial disputes. No expensive lawyer's fees, you stepped into a combat ring with a sword each, and when you were dead at the end of it, lost the case. And you wish we could solve our legal problems as easily as that these days. The other reason why you might have two people fighting like this is if it's a competitive fight at a tournament, a sporting event. And that's what we'd assume this is. Because in the tournaments, what you had was fights that were conducted according to certain rules, and the idea was to do lay blows in certain areas of the body, just to prove you had the martial prowess to do that, but without actually hurting the other person. So, Carl, since these are your illustrations and your favourite book, I will give you the option of taking the first one.
So, from the German fight manual for textbooks, I take up what's known as the fool's guard. Why the fool's guard? Well, because my blade is actually pointed quite low, down towards the ground. It's not very threatening. Equally, I've left a lot of my upper body open and exposed to attack.
You fool.
One might say I would be a fool. However, if you have not read the same manual as me, then this might happen. And that would make the opponent the fool.
Alright. So I'm going to use a different manual. I don't have an illustration Italian manual called Flostulatorum, Flower of the Battlefield. It was written a bit earlier than this one, which is the Theft book or Pipe book of Hans Talbot, which was written towards the end of the 1400s. But in Flostulatorum, there's a very nice guard that looks like this, and it's called the Woman's Guard. And it's called the Woman's Guard, and don't shoot the messenger here, because this is all about medieval sexual politics and not early 21st century sexual politics. It's called the Woman's Guard, they say, because it's an open and inviting stance with the breast held high. So I'm essentially saying, come on, big boy, come and get it. Now the problem is, of course, the two of us stand here in these inviting stances all afternoon long. It's very boring for you. You're going to get up and walk away. So one of the things to start the fight, I'm going to do it. But I'm not going to be stupid enough to step straight forward and onto that sword. What I'm going to do is step round the side of the blade as I make the attack. What's more, the attack I'm going to make is not for the high line, so you can come up underneath the sword. It's going to be in the low line for the exposed knee there on the left leg. And the way I figure it is, if I'm fast and focused enough with that, Carl will have to make a defence rather than an offence, and that might just give me the advantage to get in a bit quicker.
And it worked. So I had to defend, but I crossed my hands, and this allowed me not only to defend, but to turn it instantly into my next attack, wielding the blade over my head and cutting the Keith's leg.
Same idea. Attempt into attack, raise the sword into the high line, strike straight down to split the skull.
And I take what's known as a sloping parry. Basically, the blade is sloped downwards, which means that it doesn't get chipped. It keeps it nice and sharp. I'm looking through this down here towards my opponent to decide what to do next. And I'll try to take his head from his shoulders.
I step back. I take a block. As I take the block, I'm already zeroing in with the point to get it level with the eyes. From here, I will try and thrust into the face. If Carl opposes me, I can come underneath and slash him across the gut. Now, because that's actually quite a dangerous manoeuvre, as many of these are, we wouldn't want to try that at speed. So we do actually do a little shorthand there. So when Carl comes to me, instead of doing the thrust, I really do a flip up in the air and then slice across the gut.
And you'll notice I've moved my left hand to the bottom of the sword to further up. This gives me more direction of where the point is going to go. And I'll go for Keith's right eyeball.
Nice try.
Didn't work, so I'll double back and go for the other one.
Now, I step back here, forcing Carl to stretch further to reach. His arms are fully extended. Now, from here, I put a bit of pressure on his blade. I can throw it to one side and leave myself in a position to thrust to the stomach.
I step back, pushing the blade aside, and again you can see my next attack is already happening. It's downright blow onto the head.
I go off to the side, take this floating parry as I go, whip round for a cut to the neck. I come in just deep enough, as he takes that block, I'm able to continue moving in, beat the blade aside, and bring the pommel into play. From here I can crack him in the face with the pommel, or, of course, if I'm close enough, I can smother the body and then foot sweep him as well. So again, getting in close, as Carl said earlier, trying to use the body to drop the other person is as valid in European martial arts in the medieval period as anywhere else in the world. End of round one.
So, beginning of round two, I'm about to take a more aggressive stance after being rather annoyed at the achievement of the first round. So, I'm going to take up what's known as the bull's horn, and it's like this.
Alright, well I'll meet aggression with aggression, and I have my sword held out in front of me, and it's called the long lying guard. Now this is a good guard, especially up against this guard here, because what I can do if I'm quick enough is come up, beat the blade aside, and also be thrust into the face as I do it. Again, that's a very dangerous technique to execute at speed. So what we'll do is we'll turn that into two separate moves for safety, the beat, and then the thrust.
And I carry the blade to the side, giving me a chance to glide, opening up a nice gap into the midriff, which I'll take for my next attack.
I jump back.
Doesn't work, the Keith is running out of space, he's getting pushed back towards the corner. This is where I need to take advantage with the blade to the head.
Now here, I'm just about able to get out from the corner there. I whip the sword down and try and slice the wrist.
And I lean back, putting my hand on the back of the pommel. This means that I should execute the thrust abroad. Basically, I'm aiming to get the point of the sword into Keith's neck, and then use my left hand to drive down underneath the rib and give him a bit of a rub. Nope, didn't work. So I'll go for a downright blade to the head.
Because that's a downright blow, in other words, a very powerful, hard blow, I get my free hand under the blade. Now, Carl's been stopped in his tracks because he's expended so much energy. I can now drive towards him, trying to cut him as I displace the sword, even if he gets out of the way. I've been smart enough to look at all the illustrations in his manual, so I know I can now execute the martial art. All right, we've got there, but even if he does, I can rip his sword out of his hand. That doesn't work. I've got the good old-fashioned pommel in the face. But that's why you should never try the same technique twice because you don't know the person marches. So there we are. You've got two sequences, and what we're going to do is run them again for you at full speed so you can see how the moves flow together and the logic in it. But what we always do at the end is we put an extra sequence on. I mean, it'd be up to you to open a book to decide which one's going to win. What we also do to spice it up is we challenge each other to come up with a type of ending. So, Carl, I think it's your turn to give me a style of ending you'd like me to try and execute, and you'll try and stop it.
We were very, very recently working on trying to come up with a comedic ending. So maybe we should put that one in.
Alright, I'll try the comedy ending, he will try and stop me, and we'll see how the third section pans out. Alright, there you go, ladies and gentlemen, a brief introduction to the techniques of the two-handed sword in the late medieval period. And myself and Carl will be around for a few minutes now. If you want to ask us any questions or take a closer look at the weapon. The only thing we'll say is, sometimes, certainly for adults, these are lighter than you expect. Sometimes they're heavier. They're certainly heavier for the younger members of the audience. So parents and guardians, please supervise the younger ones if they're holding these. Make sure that the next person's got a good grip on any weapon before you let it go. And don't, whatever you do, in your enthusiasm, turn to the person next to you and say, wow, take a look at this. Because if you get it wrong, it might be the last thing they ever take a look at, and we wouldn't want that. Otherwise, we're having a splendid day at the Royal Armoury Museum. From myself and Carl, thanks very much.